The village of Dalton is more than $3.5 million in the hole. Mayor Tiffany Henyard is accused of misusing money, and today she's nowhere to be found.
Very, very diligently, very hard under difficult circumstances to get as much information as we could to share with you.
She thinks she's going to jail. I'm also a former Cook County Sheriff for the Department of Corrections, and I suggest that she go and take a tour of that facility so she can see what's in store.
Although caught up in positions of authority is nothing new, Mayor Tiffany Henyard has taken it to a new level now that the feeds are pursuing her. She is facing the consequences of her actions. For years, she has attempted to avoid accountability by employing every tactic known to man in order to stay one step ahead. But this time, nothing seems to be working in her favor, and the walls are closing. And let's take a look at the most recent development. Mayor Henyard has to deal with the consequences of her behavior. Major. In contrast to popular assumption, the Tiffany corruption drama, the entire Tiffany story began when the Board of Trustees appointed her to serve out the remaining term of the late Mayor Frank Zuccarelli. According to state election law, the Thoron Township Board had 60 days to choose a successor to Zuccarelli's term. Joyce Washington, a trustee with a long tenure and status as an interim supervisor, and Jerry Jones, a trustee and Thornton Township assessor, were the front-runners for the position. But as we all know, politics is unpredictable, and as a result, the Board of Trustees was unable to agree on a single candidate. Although many in the audience thought the names were random, it was later revealed that Henyard had applied for the job some time ago, and Tiffany Henyard was nominated as a last resort, which is how Tiffany was appointed to the mayor position. Trustees Christopher Gonzalez made the motion to nominate Henyard, and Henyard was voted and sworn in just before midnight. I don't know about you, but they ought to have interpreted Tiffany's exclusion from the initial round of nominations as a warning that time was running out. Fonzel is later disclosed that despite his repeated efforts to find Ston, whom he felt was the best candidate, time was running out with a midnight deadline rapidly approaching, with the board sharply divided, and he didn't want the township electors to make the important supervisor decision. Gonzalez made a last-minute move and nominated Henyard, hoping that the urgency of the situation would for the board to unite, setting aside their differences to make a decision before it was too late. You've been voted that the Thoron Township supervisor. How do you feel right now? Oh, I'm overjoyed. I didn't see it coming. I love it. That means that I am truly blessed and everyone loves me. I love them. Thank you. Fans believe that the Board of Trustees had their own agendas to hide because they did not want the decision to go into the hands of the public. However, the consequences of a hasty nomination by Gonzalez were faced by the whole Dalton city. The first meeting that Henyard led was a pretty mundane-oriented meeting in which she expressed her motivations to serve the people. She said, "My Board of Trustees and clerk, I want you guys to know that I appreciate the confidence that you have restored in me to lead such a big path of the late Frank Zuccarelli. So I thank you for your support and your love. Thank you. I pledge to the residents of Thoron Township, the elected officials, the Board of Trustees, and the entire staff that we will work hard and have an honest and responsible fiscal year. And I also pledge to remember I am a public servant and I will always keep people first. I was known as the people's trustee. Now I'm the people's mayor, and even now I am the people's supervisor. So thank you again." Everything appeared to be going well until Mayor Tiffany began questioning those close to the former township supervisor. Rumors soon circulated that Tiffany had a personal grudge against those who had helped Frank in his position, claiming that she felt intimidated by those with long-standing connections to the position, particularly when they attempted to help her navigate its duties. This is somewhat understandable since Tiffany wasn't selected for her abilities. It seems that her insecurities drove her to dominate and exert power. The city mayor Henyard's first action was to remove Jessica Jones with confidence. After a tense, quiet, Jerry Jones made the motion and Joyce Washington, a trustee, seconded it. The vote was rapid and shockingly unanimous, with even Gray Everett and Trust Gonzalez approving. However, Henyard wasn't finished. She immediately singled out Stephanie Weidman. Next, Trustee Jones again initiated the motion, and despite a brief pause, Washington seconded it. This time, the vote was sharply divided at 4-1, with Trust Gonzalez standing alone in opposition. It is interesting that no one asked Tiffany for an explanation for the termination of 2 longtime employees. Even the employees didn't know what was going on, Jones said. When it was decided, an employee text messaged me and said, "I'm so sorry they let you go, and I was just what it was a shock. It was out of left field for me. It hurts. I have not been told why I've reached out, and I'm waiting to hear back on setting up a meeting and finding out what has happened controversies." So it turns out.
Have confidential, sensitive papers that were in a common area.
This morning, some of those documents were gone.
Tiffany Henyard's recent actions have created waves of controversy and intense scrutiny, and her attempts to defend herself seem to raise more questions than they answer. In a statement, Tiffany claimed the office space rearrangements were necessary because the heat was affecting her ability to work efficiently, dismissing Assessor Elston's objections as an overreaction to trivial matters. She suggested the relocation of the assessor's office was part of a broader initiative aimed at prioritizing citizen services, though skeptics pointed out the glaring absence of any announcement or official paper trail supporting such a move. Even her supporters seemed divided, with other township members stepping forward to back Tiffany's decisions, offering a lengthy statement that she had supposedly never consulted them about any major decisions. This vague defense came with a peculiar shift in focus, with one member suggesting the local media should abandon their critical investigations into township management and instead highlight accomplishments such as Thoron Township's receipt of the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. However, this attempt to pivot from scrutiny toward praise felt hollow to many, as the claims of success could not distract from the mounting discontent within the community. Tiffany's response to criticism often veered into unusual territory, lending spiritual overtones with defensive posturing. As public dissatisfaction grew, rumors of her perceived incompetence spread widely, exacerbating the already tense atmosphere surrounding her administration. Instead of addressing these concerns directly, her ally Keith Freeman seemed to adopt a rather unorthodox strategy, essentially shaming the media for not portraying Tiffany positively. Freeman lashed out publicly, stating that the local media was obsessed with negative stories about the township while ignoring its supposed achievements. In a tone verging on condescension, Freeman declared that the residents of Thornton Township would benefit more from hearing about its successes rather than what he dismissed as petty gossip, calling critical reporting kid stuff. Freeman challenged people to verify his numbers, asserting that the township's financial reporting would prove the administration's competence. His remarks seemed to reflect a growing defensiveness within Tiffany's team, who framed her challenges as divinely ordained. Freeman even went so far as to say God doesn't make mistakes. He put the right person here, who he knew would do the work, take the lashes, and have the strength to endure it all, portraying Tiffany's position as one of righteous resilience against unfounded attacks. As public pressure mounted, Tiffany began engaging in a new tactic to maintain her image, hosting private meetings and limiting media access. When reporters were eventually allowed into meetings, they found that Tiffany had a habit of abruptly ending the sessions as soon as the media arrived, giving the impression she was intentionally avoiding accountability. Meanwhile, within the township office, tensions remained high. Freeman doubled down on his claims in insisting there was no wrongdoing and blaming the media for focusing on the mess and gossip rather than more substantive matters. He even implied that skeptics were misinformed or maliciously attacking the township's leadership without basis. At the same time, Freeman tried to quell concerns by offering photo documentation upon request to verify that no files or sensitive materials have been mishandled during the office reshuffle. However, these offers did little to address the core complaints from residents and critics, many of whom felt that Tiffany's leadership was prioritizing optics over actual governance. Perhaps the most dramatic turn in Tiffany's response to public disapproval was her pivot to spirituality, positioning herself as a virtuous figure fighting against unseen adversaries. She began framing her troubles as a spiritual battle, suggesting that she was a beacon of good fighting against evil forces trying to tarnish her reputation. This messaging was supported by Subal, but persistent suggestions from her team that Tiffany's challenges were not just political but personal, portraying her critics as part of a larger scheme to dismantle the positive work she claimed to be doing for the community. Residents and reporters alike noticed that Tiffany's rhetoric was laced with religious language, presenting herself as someone enduring hardship with grace, patience, and divine purpose. While this strategy may have resonated with some of her loyal supporters, others saw it as a transparent attempt to deflect from the concrete issues plaguing her administration. Despite all these maneuvers, Tiffany's reputation was clearly on a sharp decline, and her efforts to repair it appeared increasingly futile. Her administration became characterized by secrecy, deflection, and chaotic decision-making, with critics accusing her of failing to provide coherent answers to valid concerns about mismanagement and corruption. The relocation of office spaces, which Tiffany attributed to her focus on citizen services, became emblematic of a larger problem: decisions seemingly made without transparency or proper procedure. In the meantime, public trust in Tiffany's leadership eroded further with every perceived misstep. Her limited engagement with the community and abrupt dismissal of valid concerns only fueled rumors about her unsuitability for office. The absence of accountability or clear communication painted the picture of a leader struggling to maintain her grip on power, even as her influence and rapport dwindled. In the end, Tiffany's reliance on spiritual justifications, private meetings, and hollow defenses only deepened the rift between her administration and the people of Thornton Township. The mounting criticism from residents, coupled with Freeman's increasingly erratic defenses, created an image of an administration on the brink of collapse, scrambling to maintain its narrative amid growing skepticism. Tiffany's dramatic efforts to recast her challenges as part of a larger spiritual test while continuing to avoid direct accountability served only to solidify her critics' claims that her leadership had failed. Instead of addressing the core issues with transparency and decisive action, Tiffany's administration appeared focused on controlling its narrative, leaving Thornton Township to navigate its mounting challenges alone.
Bald-faced example of Supervisor Henyard's promise of come to the good things, there's so much good going on that we want to tell you about. When we show up to report on it, we were denied access.
So that's what happened to our reporter, and then at the next meeting that you attended, we heard this.
Because y'all don't want to do the research. Y'all keep listening to people and no one's showing you fact. They keep telling you fiction, fake story, fake news, like for real, stop. But go check, guys, if you really want to know the truth so you can understand what it is that we're fighting over.
The drama got messier as Gonzalez, who had nominated Tiffany, saw how she had reacted. As soon as the camera turned off, he claimed that from the first day, Tiffany started acting like she was the one who ran the show. She just kept basically yelling, what are they going to think now? What are they going to say now? Speaking of the Dalton trustees, cause I guess like I said, there was already a rift. And I didn't know that just in her first year on the job, she had been involved in multiple controversies, including the hiring of an inspector who is a sender spending taxpayer money without board approval and using Dalton police officers for personal security. It's sad that we have to get to this point, that we have to go through court prost meetings, as it's costing the village money because of the negligence that leadership has shown. And anyway, things started going haywire for Tiffany at the annual meeting. A 23-year-old South Holland resident encouraged township leaders to foster civic engagement by taking good faith actions, including making information readily available. You claim that you want us to participate in civic affairs and that we should attend these meetings, but based on my first meeting in Thornton Township, it appears that some actions are being taken against the interests of the township's residents. Another resident, G.S. Watts, answered Tiffany Henyard's comments regarding the voters' decision to reject a mental health referendum that would have increased taxes in Thornton Township. This is not an attack on you. As a black woman, I've always been held accountable for my performance and results, and I expect the same of you. We are not brainwashed, we're tired. No one said we didn't think mental health was important. We just don't trust you to fix it. Perhaps that's why Tiffany didn't want the residents to have a say in her decisions, because she made them for herself, not for the people. You can be sure the residents called her out on that. In a recent confrontation, Trina Diaz, who had previously supported Mayor Henyard, didn't mince words and addressed him directly. She said she had forced Henyard to speak, but now she had a long list of grievances, concerns about office issues, including being barred from a Dalton board meeting, and even misconduct on official trips were voiced by DS, who pointed to Dalton trustee Andrew Holmes. Another resident, Nate Fields from South Holland, who worked as a photographer in Thornton Township, also voiced concerns. He recalled that following the death of Frank Zuki, Henyard had promised Nate that he would provide him with anything he needed. but he fired him without giving him a good reason, asking why he fired him. "All I want to do is work for my community. It's very scary when grown men are coming at you and threatening you. I'm afraid to come to work. I don't want to feel scared to come to work every day," a township staffer claimed that Henyard was allegedly using other men to intimidate workers and keep them silent. The media is harassing the workers. Tiffany Henyard's tenure as mayor has been nothing short of a legal minefield, with lawsuits piling up against her faster than anyone can keep track of. The legal drama surrounding her is almost as infamous as her fiery personality, from employees alleging wrongful termination to local businesses accusing her of favoritism and unfair practices. Henyard is at the center of more court cases than a prime-time legal drama you might not know, but Henyard is named alongside Dolton Village trustee Andrew Holmes in an SA lawsuit filed by a Dolton police officer who was a member of Henyard's security detail, as well as a woman who used to work for the mayor. Another lawsuit alleged Dolton officials gave a barber shop owner the runaround in improperly denying a business license. Not to mention, Dwayne Thrash, a former maintenance manager in Dolton, has also slapped her with a lawsuit that's sending shockwaves through the town. Thrash alleged that he was approached by one of Henyard's close allies in 2023 with a shady scheme to replace the school board's attorney with the law firm handpicked by the mayor's inner circle. When Thrash refused to go along with the plot, things took a turn for the worse. According to the lawsuit, he was abruptly fired while on an approved vacation under the flimsiest of excuses of unsatisfactory work performance and insubordination. The legal filing has demanded that the city erase the part about his inadequate work performance and award him compensation for his abrupt firing. The lawsuit has accused the mayor of a number of crimes, including violating the First and 14th Amendments since taking office as mayor of Dolton and supervisor of Thoron Township. She and her closest supporters in both communities, including Freeman, have fired a number of people they believe to be a political threat to Henyard and her reputation, or who disobey their ERS. According to sources, former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot is looking into troubled Mayor Tiffany Henyard at a rate of $400 per hour after lawsuit compelled the federal government to act. Henyard has been under investigation from Dolton residents this year for her alleged extravagant spending habits. Allegedly, the mayor has used government money to pay for expensive meals and frequent hotel stays. Henyard, who has defended herself by claiming that she is being singled out because she is a black woman in a position of authority, was reportedly not present at the meeting when the Dolton Village Board of Trustees decided to hire Lightfoot, a former federal prosecutor. Even though the room was filled with community members applauding Lightfoot's appointment, the people of Dolton deserve nothing less than a government that is fully accountable, responsive, transparent, and effective stewards of your precious tax dollars. Among other issues, I look forward to the work ahead and urge Mayor Henyard and her administration to fully cooperate with this investigation by promptly providing the requested documentation to give all concerned a complete and accurate accounting of the village's financial conditions. Lightfoot will look into a trip Henyard took to Las Vegas that allegedly LED claims of impropriety and unauthorized expenses continue to mount against Tiffany Henyard, whose tenure has been marked by controversies and legal battles with federal investigators focusing on numerous allegations of corruption. Reports revealed that the former mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, has been brought in to assist in uncovering the reasons behind several questionable expenditures, including nearly $900,000 paid to a local prosecutor over 2 years, despite the prosecutor having no authority to generate funds for criminal charges. Lightfoot is reportedly prepared to provide authorities with any evidence uncovered during this investigation. Meanwhile, in March, Henyard allegedly obstructed an FBI investigation into her conduct, reportedly threatening to retaliate if any actions were taken following Lightfoot's appointment. Henyard and her close circle, including her political committee, her cancer charity, her boyfriend, and 4 trustees, 2 of whom are relatives, are now under intense scrutiny as federal subpoenas have demanded payroll expenses, employment reimbursement, credit card travel, and other records for examination by a grand jury. Even Henyard's deputy police chief and her now defunct burger business have been named in these subpoenas, with federal prosecutors charging her top aide Keith Freeman with bankruptcy fraud for allegedly failing to disclose his Dolton revenues. Freeman's troubles don't end there. The Village of Robbins has also been subpoenaed in connection to his time as an administrator there, where an audit reportedly uncovered that he received payments exceeding the budgeted amounts. Despite these allegations, Freeman continues to hold positions in both and Thoron Township, fueling speculation that his legal team may be negotiating his cooperation with federal investigators. Retired FBI agent Wright speculated that ongoing investigations could lead to additional evidence, informants, and witnesses, putting Henyard and her allies in an increasingly precarious position. Henyard has publicly denied any wrongdoing, dismissing the accusations of corruption and unauthorized spending as politically motivated and racially charged attacks. She has accused her critics, including Dolton trustees opposing her who are also Black, of betraying their community. "You should all feel ashamed of yourselves because you are all Black and you are sitting up there beating and attacking a Black woman in a position of authority," Henyard stated in an attempt to frame the backlash against her as divisive and unjustified. While Henyard's claims may resonate with some, others remain focused on the weight of the evidence. Investigations reveal that Henyard and her in-law accumulated over $112,000 in taxpayer-funded travel expenses within the past year. An analysis of credit card records by WGN has brought to light a pattern of excessive spending, including first-class airfare, a stay at the Four Seasons in Atlanta that totaled $99,000, and a $133,000 bill from the Marriott Marquez in New York City. These expenditures were coupled with a previously reported $26,000 trip to Las Vegas, raising significant concerns about the misuse of public funds. Such lavish spending only adds fuel to allegations of corruption, especially given the claims that public resources have been used for personal gain rather than the betterment of the community. Critics argue that these actions demonstrate Henyard's disregard for financial accountability, making it all the more outrageous that she continues to draw a six-figure salary for a position she is accused of failing to perform responsibly. Despite her firm denials, fans and critics alike are calling for Henyard to face the consequences of her alleged actions. The evidence mounting against her, paired with public discontent over her administration's lack of transparency and financial irresponsibility, has led many to believe that the time has come for her to be held accountable. The claims of political retaliation and financial misconduct are unlikely to subside anytime soon as investigations deepen into Henyard's conduct and that of her closest associates. Her efforts to frame these allegations as racially motivated fake news have done little to quell the outrage, with community members and observers increasingly skeptical of her intentions and capabilities. Federal scrutiny and public criticism paint a grim picture of her leadership, and for many, the next logical step is for Henyard to be brought to justice for her alleged crimes and to ensure taxpayers are no longer footing the bill for such controversies.